So thank you for joining me. I know you're an extremely busy lady, particularly since Dragon's Den and all of that. That's really exciting.
I'm really sorry. I was such a nightmare to get hold of, but I've literally haven't even been able to check messages. And you're right, like our world completely changed since Dragon's Den. So I appreciate you persevering with me.
Oh, no, thank you so much for joining me. So let's go back to Dragon's Den in a little bit. So, you're a very visible personality, Rhona, in the dental world. But just for those few people who might not know you, can you just introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much. I actually find it somewhat daunting sometimes when people say, you're a visible figure, because I guess you live in your own world, in your own bubble, and you don't realize the attention that you may get, whether it's wanted or unwanted. So I appreciate you saying that. But for those of you that don't know me, I am a dentist that is based in Chelsea. I bought a dental practice at the beginning of the pandemic. To be exact, I actually completed on buying the practice a week before the March national lockdown. But yeah. I had been working at the prior. Yeah, I know, it was pretty crazy. But I have been working at the practice prior to that as an associate. And the practice was a practice with zero patient list. It didn't have a goodwill, and my boss thought that I was crazy that I wanted to work there, but I guess I wanted to just show myself and I guess the world that you can make anything possible. And I think especially in dentistry, people often blame the situation that they find themselves in, like the practices that they work in or the patients that they see, on external circumstances. So what I mean by external circumstances is I don't have private patients. I don't have the opportunity to treat cosmetically driven patients. My boss won't buy me this. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I think it's that negative narrative that puts you in a worse situation. So I was in a lot of those situations, and I took myself out, and I worked in a practice as an associate that was seeing one patient a month. And now I'm fully booked till January 2022. And I created that reality for myself, by myself, in dentistry. And I think really that's been my mission. And I think it's been really focusing on patients' perceptions of dentistry. So unlike a lot of the profession, I wasn't so focused on other dentists and getting their approval, but more so making patients see the wider picture of how we slot in within the rest of the medical profession, and how we're not that scary person behind a mask, and challenging those stigmas about dentistry and dentists as a whole. So I guess that explains my journey. And obviously, as you know, my activity on social media has enabled me to leverage the position that I'm in.
Amazing. I think you're so inspiring to talk to, and just your driving forces are almost tangible. So what is it, Rhona? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Do you know, the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is the thought that I'm going to make a difference to somebody's life. And I think that's the way that I see dentistry, that you've always got to change somebody's life, whether that's changing their perception of dentists, changing their smile, or enabling their health in some kind of way. But really, I think above all of that, it's leaving some kind of change within the profession. So for me, my calling in life is changing the way the public see dentistry. And that's why I've played such a pivotal part in the media and built really strong relationships with journalists, for example, because even if you think about just, 10 years ago or a decade ago, there was always negativity about dentistry in the media. And in fact, when I first approached a journalist, which I did myself, dentistry is not glamorous, Rhona. I love you, but it's not a very sexy topic. That's what the journalist had said. And I said, no, you're wrong, actually. There's so much. And I was the one that took on the educated role. And right now in the media, we've got so much positivity with dentistry. Dentistry has been glamorized. Dentistry has been seen to be something that's essential, and it's valued, and I think that really was my calling, to change that general public perception of dentistry and dentists.
Amazing stuff. Brilliant. So, huge congratulations for achieving what you've achieved, Rhona, and to see you in the top 50 is amazing. So what does that mean to you, to see yourself up there?
It means so much to me. And I think that I have always set a mental vision, or what I would say manifested what I want to be real. And I think that, you know, a few years ago when my name wasn't on the dental map, I looked at other individuals that were in the top 50 or had won dental awards even. And I said, I want to be up there. I want to be, you know, a memorable name for the right reasons. And I think that it's been a real honor this year to be chosen and not necessarily voted for, because I think the voting system can actually turn into a little bit of a competition, a popularity competition, whereas I think this year the selection was, you know, more carefully considered. And I think what's really nice is there were names up there that people wouldn't necessarily know about, but, you know, they're fighting their own battles within the dentistry arena. You've done an amazing job as well, Nicki. You know, for me, during the pandemic, I was introduced to another dentist, Mark Cronkshaw, who created Pandora, and we crossed paths because he wanted me to leverage my media position to bring the journalists and the media aware of what's going on with dentists when we weren't allowed to work. And, you know, it was up, you know, both of our forces coming together. And he's not somebody that's necessarily on social media, for example. The fact that he was recognized in the top 50 this year, you know, I think was really special, and I think it was a really good thing. So I preferred the way it was done this year, and I think that there were lots of names up there that wouldn't have necessarily been voted in but got the recognition that they deserve.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. And, you know, we all have our challenges, as anybody does, at the times, but least of all, you know, across COVID, when you've just taken on a new practice. So what challenges have you faced, Rhona, and what sort of learnings have you had from that you can relay to our audience that might help them moving forwards?
Do you know, I think out of adversity always comes opportunity. And I recognise that I've been in sort of bad situations before in dentistry, whether it was working with difficult employers or not having my dream job, or, you know, suffering with patient complaints. You know, I've been there and done a lot of all of that stuff. But I think you just take it as a learning opportunity. And I recognised immediately that being a dentist, we couldn't physically go in and see patients, but I said, what's happening at the moment? Right, everything has been taken online. So I offered patients the opportunity to have online consultations for free, to build that rapport up, you know, over media channels. And, you know, I actually then created a list for when we were allowed to open up. So immediately, as soon as we opened up, I had, you know, weeks and weeks worth of these online consultations to physically come in. So if they were interested based on the conversation, they'd have book in the physical consultation. I liaised with my practice manager. You know, they were all booked in accordingly. And that meant I had a whole load of treatment lined up for me for as soon as we were allowed to open. I think it's just like about having that preparation and always kind of thinking one step ahead and not thinking it's all doom and gloom. And I see a lot of negativity in the dental arena still, where other clinicians are like, oh, we're never going to be able to work back to normal. You know, this is awful, the PPE, the regulations. Of course, there are obstacles, but I think we need to focus on the overall picture. And, you know, that dentistry is always going to be in need. Dentistry is always going to be a demand. There's been a huge surge as well in cosmetic demands of patients. This is an opportunity for us to talk to them, to educate them. They have more time to understand and read things. I think there's lots of benefits, but you have to see those benefits, you know, and, you know, realize that hopefully all the other external circumstances like PPE and things like that, you know, will eventually die down. But knowing, my favorite saying is, this too shall pass, that nothing lasts forever, and the good and the bad. So, you know, all the bad that you it will go away as well as the good. So just try and find the opportunity in the difficult situations that you find yourself in.
Fantastic. I think for me, sometimes when I actually verbalize or ink what I want to achieve, it happens. And I was a bit like you, Rhona. I remember as a practice owner sat in the audience at an exhibition once, listening to a top speaker, I won't say who it is, thinking, in 3 years' time, I want to be on that stage doing that job.
Yeah.
And a year later, I was.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know, the sky, on that note, like, the sky is no limit. And I always say there's something to be said about imitation. So when you look at that stage and you see somebody that you like, you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery, as they say. And often those that succeed have mimicked in some way those that they admire. So for me as well, when I embarked, you know, there were dentists, you know, Christian Coachman, Dr. Miguel Stanley, they were huge names in the dental industry. And, you know, last year I was in Miami, you know, just before I had to leave early to go home, you know, due to COVID. And that was to watch Christian Coachman because I was invited as his personal guest. And, you know,
Wow.
6 years before BACD, and he didn't know who I was. And I just thought, I want to be up that level, you know,
That's
learning from the best. So,
fantastic. Oh, brilliant. That's amazing. So Rhona, if I could put you in a TARDIS and we could jump a decade forward, where would you like to see yourself? What would you have liked to have achieved longer term?
So longer term, I definitely see parlour being a really big part of our future. I think the beauty about parlour is when you have a product, you have the ability to impact people in numbers that you never thought were possible. So for example, in a dental practice, of course, I love impacting patients in their lives, but there's only a certain limit of patients that I can see. But I think, you know, the crux of the business is based on changing people's habits to impact the environment and their health in a positive way. So if we can impact lots and lots of different people to change this habit of a lifetime, I think that's where I'd like to see parlour as being a household name that everyone uses and knows, and being the toothpaste tablet of, you know, of that time. With regards to the dental practice, I think really I want the practice to be running in full flow, and for me to be working only about 2 clinical days and possibly having another couple of dental practices as well. I have been offered by different really big names in, you know, in the retail world, where they'd want me to open up lots of Dr Rhona clinics, and I'm not sure that's quite for me. I mean, they've offered it to me, it's really flattering, but I think I'd like to have some kind of control over the quality efforts. And I think that's the difficulty, you know, when you become part of a chain, as you know, you lose that authenticity in a way, you know.
Absolutely. And I really do honestly believe that we are moving into a new era of authenticity. So I'm totally with you on that one, Rhona. Absolutely. So with regards to Dragon's Den, how did you find that whole experience?
Oh, do you know what? It was absolutely amazing. I think it was one of the, again, I manifested it. So I tell you one thing, this is quite an interesting thing. I've done a whole video on this on my YouTube, by the way, for anyone that wants to watch it in detail, because I know we can't cover it all. But in short, I was always a fan of watching Dragon's Den. And I think what I loved about it so much is that I admired the tenacity and the bravery of entrepreneurs to just go out there and, you know, bring an idea forward. And you know what, I actually thought it was completely beyond my scope and ability to do something like this. But I was such a fan of it. And I remember being with an ex-partner of mine. We were together for many years, and I would always watch it. And I tried to encourage him to go on it and do something like this, because I think in a way I was projecting, because I wanted to do it myself and didn't have the belief that I could do it myself. Anyways, fast forward on a few years later, I still didn't have the confidence to start a product, but it was Simon and Adarsh, my 2 other business partners, that had really pushed me in this trajectory and said, you can absolutely do this. I was like, this is so out of my comfort zone. Like, what do you do? Do you go to a lab and then like put loads of chemicals together and start? I had no idea how you would even start a product, but they had talked me into it. And by the time, so we got approached to be on Dragon's Den, we didn't apply. So lots of businesses.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Wow.
To apply, but we had been featured on ITV this morning as part of their Plastic Free July, and as a result, one of the researchers from Dragon's Den had seen us on the Plastic Free July and asked us if we'd auditioned. So we'd gone through a few auditions. Then they told us because of COVID, only 2 business partners were allowed on the show. So we decided it would be me and Simon. I really insisted that 1 female should go, because I think that definitely the space for female entrepreneurs and businesses is being valued, and I think that's what a lot of people want to see more of. So I thought, you know, it makes sense, you know, for that. And obviously Simon is an incredible speaker as well, and I think, you know, we work well together on screen, where Adarsh is amazing, but he's more into the kind of background stuff. He's the sort of orchestrator of all the business stuff. So it worked well. And when we went on the show, you know, we'd already practiced to death, you know, and it took a lot of hard work. But I feel that because Simon and I complemented each other so well, we knew exactly who was going to say what. And I think, I mean, I hope it showed as well. We were quite prepared. Simon knew his numbers really well. When it came to the other parts of the business, like the media or you know, how we were doing online, things like that, I was given that role. So I think that it was an incredible experience, and to be confronted by so many amazing entrepreneurs like Deborah Meaden, Peter Jones, etc., I just was blown away and couldn't quite believe it. And it made me feel really worthy. And I think one of the piece of advice that I really want to give people out there is just always believe, you know, the sky really is the limit. Because 10 years ago, I definitely didn't think. I looked at people on Dragon's Den in awe, and I never thought I was capable of doing that, especially when you come from a dental or a medical background, because we're just set in stone following rules and regulations, you know, and we think, oh, this is it, you know, and, you know, we come home to a certain set of standards. And I think really this showed me that you can really do anything if you put your mind to it.
Amazing. And you have, which is fantastic.
Thank you, Nicki.
Before we close this down, one final question. As a human being, what is the one thing that you value most in the world?
The one thing that I value most in the world as a human being is respect. And what I mean by that is that respect for each other as human beings. I'm so much about inclusivity, and I think one of the things that I've created in my practice, whether it's with the staff or the patients, is never ever judge people. Respect what they're doing. Do not if you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything at all. And I think this definitely is something that dental professionals should also look inside to. I sometimes get disappointed and have been the victim of online bullying and trolling and things like that. And I think the thing is that I want people to recognize that the most important thing in the world, unless somebody's harming another human being, is to be respectful of what they're doing. And if you don't agree with it, you don't need to create negativity around it. You could always have a private conversation with that person. But I think the worst thing that you can do is make people feel bad for their choices, as long as their choices, of course, respect other human beings, you know? So for me, it's all about respecting values, respecting people, respecting choices. So that for me is such an important part of what I live by day to day.
That is really powerful words and an amazing ethos. And I hope people can take that with them and do the same. So Rhona, thank you so much for your time. I won't keep you any longer. I know you're a hugely busy lady, but I really do appreciate you joining me, and many congratulations again for what you're achieving and have achieved. Keep pushing forward and keep up the amazing work. And hopefully one day I'll meet you in the flesh.
Yeah, for sure. And congratulations as well on all of your achievements. You're an inspiration, women. So
thank you so much.
Bye.
Rhona. Okay, take care. Thank you so much. Bye.